Hello to another podcast. This one is another solo one. It's not meant to be. I will at some point get the lovely John Brown of Retro Rights on here. I just need to get off my arse and sort out the arrangements for that, but we'll do it. This one is a bit of a kind of last minute thing. And it's about the North American games crash. Ad nauseum, obviously. As I do this, I've noticed that Dudley of Yesterzine has also put one up. So obviously go and watch a video of his. I would imagine he goes through in quite a lot of detail. But I decided to do one, and I'm sure many other people will as well, for the simple reason that it's such a topic that the topic just keeps coming up. And it's a topic that is born entirely from bad journalism. Like, entirely from bad journalism. There's no other word for it. The evidence is out there to show that it wasn't a worldwide crash. There's evidence out there to show it wasn't a crash at all. It was a kind of loss of belief, if you will, in the video game market. But people were still buying and making video games. People were still playing video games. It wasn't like the Atari 2600, ColecoVision, what have you, suddenly disappeared from existence in America. But there you go. That's what we have. And I say it's bad journalism because we had a similar thing a little while ago. The Register put up their kind of a little piece about consoles in the UK with the claim that the home computer market was finished in the 80s, around the 80s mid-mark. And it took the man that is ChinnyVision, the legend, about 10 minutes, I think, to find all the evidence you wanted to prove that wasn't the case. All the charts of game sales and what have you to show that the home computer market was selling very strongly, much strongly than consoles, certainly, all the way into the 90s. And that's what we know. We know that from being there. I was part of it at the time. We had a Sega Master System at some point, but it was a second-hand one from a car boot sale because they weren't that popular. They were okay. They were certainly more popular than NES, which was just a horrific launch for that didn't do well at all. But the first console I bought myself to literally just say I want a console was a Super Nintendo. And that was after it first came out. It wasn't immediately. And it was fairly similar for most of my peer group as well. The home computers and other computers later on, so IBM PCs, if we assume home computers, not just the ones that are in the home, but kind of the bespoke systems like the Sinclair Spectrum, Commodore 64 and stuff like that. They lasted a long time. They lasted us a long time. I mean, we were in a relatively lower income area, which obviously drives a lot of this stuff. So I'm not saying that nobody in the UK had consoles. What I am saying is that for us, they were a faraway, mythical thing. Like if you looked through one of the all-format magazines, you would see all these stories about these consoles. But as far as we were concerned, the PC Engine was as popular as the Master System, as the NES, because we just saw them in magazines. And this was true for a long time in the UK and for a lot of Europe as well. So a lot of these, people call themselves journalists for literally no reason. I don't consider myself a journalist. I research my stuff a lot better than a lot of these people do, but for me, journalism is kind of it's more of a calling. It's a core competency that you're following, and I don't. I'm closer to historian, I think, than journalist, and even then, that's lip service to historian. But these people, and again, I'm not going to mention the person because this is about attention as much as anything, and it's better if they wither on the vine, to be honest. This whole claim that it's the American exceptionalism claim, and it's not always entirely their fault, but it's their fault because they didn't do proper research. But there are so many sources out there which do cite this as being a global thing, despite there being vastly more evidence to the contrary than there is to kind of prove that state. They also the reasons for the again, not really a crash, but the crash. There's a lot of reasons outside of, people say ET too many games. It's a lot more complex than that. I can't remember her name. Somebody on Blue Sky who I just found from, she was talking about this yesterday. I'll put a link to her Blue Sky account when I find it. Went through the really detailed thread about it, and it was very, very good. I'll link that in here when I find it. So they kind of the internet. Well, we know the internet is the internet is kind of poisoned. It's a poisoned well now of information, but the information still exists. If you give it the time to actually go and find it, and you want to give it the time to go and find it, you can find it. If somebody just does a cursory glance at the first couple of pages they bring up in a search and say, hey, this is a global clash, then that's their problem. That's their fault. They need to go and do a better search than that to work out that, no, this wasn't a global crash. This was something that was very isolated in North America. There's a lot of myths around this time. I would also, and this one may be more controversial for a few people, I would also argue that Nintendo didn't save the games market, not even in North America. What I will say is that they brought in a very polished, very powerful platform with some exceptional games, which just won that market. The market was still there. The games were still being sold and made, like I said. And Nintendo just had a kind of a generational leap over what America currently had, because America was a very ingestional system they had going on, where it was only the core American companies that were feeding off each other, and so advancement wasn't happening hugely fast. Whereas Nintendo, of course, they'd had some fairly vicious rivals in people like Epoch and things like that, who had pushed the game a little bit. And so they were having to kind of really refine what they were doing to make a proper impact. And that's the big difference. And so when they released the NES in America, yeah, they talk about all these tricks to make it look like a game, the whole Rob thing and everything, so that these companies would buy it, right? So it wasn't a video game console. That would rely on these people being idiots. I mean, every retailer that did that, they're fooled that it's not a video game console because there's a plastic robot. Surely they still have to demonstrate these things. They still have to buy the games. Of course they knew it was a video game console. The difference was that it had such a strong showing in Japan, such a huge amount of games, and it tested really well in markets. That's why they sold it. So they didn't save the games market. They just they brought back the respectability because they had a package that was different enough, more advanced, with better quality games and a quality control system that they put in place, which kind of would stop some of the issues around that had caused the problems in the first place. So yeah. That's probably the one that's the one controversial thing in this podcast that you don't want to take away from. The rest of it is no. Anyone that says that it was, first of all, that it was a proper crash, and secondly, that it was a global thing, they're not making some kind of weird point. They're not like nudging and saying, let's get people angry. They're just wrong. Like easily provably wrong. And so they should just be ignored. You don't need to talk back to people. You can write yourself what you think the truth is, but people like that who are incontrovertibly wrong and unwilling to do the work not to be wrong don't deserve your time on the internet. Simple as that. Just phase them out. Let them die on the vine. Don't give them the attention that they apparently were sorely missing as a child. Yeah. That's it. Like I say, these things crop up every now and again. This is, I think we kind of mentioned it in the first one, this thing as well, because it was kind of cropping up then as well. That might have been the Reddit thing, but it's a similar area of things. There is so much evidence out there that shows that the UK was doing fine it was selling lots of units of games. The home computers were doing really well. You can even see the crossover when consoles started to come in, and you can see the fact that the home computers are still outselling them for quite a while. And yeah, no, eventually consoles did to a point take over, absolutely. But it's a long time past when people claim it was. And it's because of that, because in the UK and Europe as well, although I think our European cousins can cover that themselves. But because the UK was relying on this home computer world, which was very robust. You've got to remember, most of the big publishers now, they can trace at least some of their founding back to that UK industry at that time, and France as well, of course, people like Ubisoft. And Infogrames. But it was a robust industry. They were selling a lot of units of all sorts of things, selling not so many computers at that point. I mean, that's one of the things that kept pointing out, is that the sales of computers had plateaued. Well, yeah, of course they did. They were at saturation. You don't continuously buy computers. If you've got a computer and it works, you have a computer and it works. So of course the hardware sales plateau. That's normal. The software sales, that's the thing you concentrate on, and you can see how healthy that was. How many of the, not just, and the thing is, the best way of seeing this is looking at the types of games that were selling. Back early on in the Sinclair Spectrum, certainly, which was the computer that I knew really well, the one that I owned, the one that my friends owned. The beginning, it was the very cheap games that would sell a lot, and you'd have like £1, £2, £3 games that would sell really, really well. But as you look later in the lifespan, you see that a lot more of the expensive games start to sell a lot more as well. And that is a sign of a healthy, robust industry, where you're getting the, if you will, we'll call them luxury. The luxury tier of items are selling really well. Then you know that you've got a robust industry. And that was, of course, because a lot of these companies were starting to do a lot of licensed games, and there was more money that needed to be thrown in for licensing fees and what have you. And they just wanted to make more money, of course, as well. But yeah, that evidence is out there. It's quite easy to find if you bother looking. It's very, very definitive as well. There's no grey areas. You can literally see how strong the home computer game sales are, and that's the only metric that matters. You could be selling, if let's say, and this is not true, that in like 1991, which is really when the Mega Drive first become properly available in the UK, they sold like a million Mega Drives in that 1 year. You look at that chart and you think, well, the Mega Drive is by far the most popular system in this thing. But then if they're selling no games, there's no software available, not selling any games, or the gross profit in the home computer sales is higher, then no, the Mega Drive isn't the most popular system. The home computers are the most popular ones. But yeah, that wasn't the case. But it's you've got to do the research. You've got to understand the research, and don't just accept the first search term that comes back. I think is probably the kind of telling point. And don't trust AI, because AI is, as we have seen through many, many studies, 60% wrong. Which, I mean, if I was employing somebody and they were 60% wrong, they would not be doing well. They would be on some kind of personal improvement plan, if not fired. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening to me warble on again. This is quite a short one. Like I say, it's last minute, just because this popped up again. I don't think I'll do another one of these. This has said it all right. Anyone that says that is very wrong. They're not a journalist. They're barely even any kind of creator at all, because if all you're creating are lies, then what's the point? Watch Yesterzine, watch ChinnyVision, and when I link the lady whose name I've sorely forgotten I will, you know what? a device that basically replaces my brain, so I can use that. That's probably a good idea. Critical Kate. So yeah, Kate Williert on Blue Sky. Very good thread. Absolutely very solid. So go and follow her and look at that thread, because that's definitely worth doing. Yeah, and don't forget to go look at our latest video. We got shared by somebody put one of our videos up on Hackaday, and for the first time since the algorithm changed a couple of years back, we got more than 1,000 views in like a short space of time. We used to get near that early on, and then something changed in the algorithm and nobody finds our videos anymore. But yeah, we got over 1,000. It's obviously crashed down to earth with the new video that came out today, where that's at normal levels. But hey, it was nice, and I thank the person who put that on Hackaday. It was a lot of help. Thank you very much. And the nice comments we've had for the video. And the general love for MSX, which is always a good thing, because they were a wonderful range of computers. Anyway, thanks for listening. I will see you next time. Bye.